Brian O'Well is my name. I'm from People Before Profit, and the question is for Constantina. You said that the European elites are engaged in a silent coup, and I think the history that we've had here we can identify with that. You also said that there's a direct confrontation coming, and I suppose the direct question I'd have is, in that direct confrontation, are Syriza willing to unilaterally, step away from the agreements they have around debt? Are they willing to write down debt in the interest of the people of Greece?
Joe Cunningham, a question directed obviously on for Dorothea. It says that Berlin municipality now has to pay a contract to 2028. Given what you're after saying, is TTIP going to be the future of European contract law? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Audrey Clancy. I'm from Edenmore, just one of the ordinary grassroots movement. I was just wondering, it's just the same question that Steve just asked there. How did you manage to keep the unity together? Because at the minute, personally, I can feel it's slipping, and we could do with advice on how to keep the people together, because without the unity, we're never going to win this. Thank you.
Hi, question for Constantina. My name is Mick Barry, by the way. I'm an Anti-Austerity Alliance councillor from Cork. So my question is, I think many people in this country have been disgusted by the blackmail and the bullying that's rained down on the new government and on the Greek people from the European Central Bank, from Angela Merkel and from the European capitalist establishment. But in the face of that blackmail, will it be possible to implement an anti-austerity programme without, and I know that many Greek activists think these measures are necessary, introducing strong capital controls, nationalising the banks, and being prepared to break with both the euro and capitalist control of the economy? Thank you.
Hi, Deirdre Wadding from Right to Water, Wexford, and a member of People Before Profit as well. For Constantina, I'm very concerned what you said about women's rights and LGBT, and how will Syriza address that? Like, what steps are you going to take? For Dorothea, I suppose, yes, again, TTIP, that's obviously the biggest thing we need to do to fight that, to fight this corporatisation and the prevention of any action. For Eduardo, I was a little concerned. I understand the pragmatism in your approach, but the idea of it sort of coming from above, even the language of that, how do you ensure that then you don't sort of crystallise, that you don't just become in time a replacement of what has been before? And I was slightly put out by the idea it's not left, it's not activists, it's the people, because as an activist and a left-winger, I consider myself one of the people. We're all the people, and the people on the ground who are left and who are activists are the people. And to me, like, in its broadest sense, being left means that we're moving away from right, away from centre, away from anything that controls the people, to put the control back into the hands of the people, into people's collectives, looking ultimately to dismantle the system completely, but to distribute fairly and equally the wealth that is in our countries, and to me that is left. So just interested in your response to that. Thanks.
Hello. Brendan Condren from Crumlin says no, we are not affiliated with any political parties. And I have a question for Dorothea. Speak up. It is. My name is Brendan Condren, I'm from Crumlin. I'm from Crumlin says no to water meters and charges, and we're not affiliated with any political parties. And I have a question for Dorothea. When you had your water movement going, you said you got people from all parties supporting the grassroots movement. How did you get the party people to leave their party hats outside the door and just get behind the grassroots movement?
Terry Callagher, National Executive of the CPSU and a member of the Anti-Austerity Alliance. I think what we've seen is anti-austerity parties being built out of movements against austerity from the ground up. And the example, the experience of Greece electing an anti-austerity government shows the enormous difficulty that government has had in implementing its democratic mandate to oppose and challenge austerity. So we're seeing actually the limitations of national parliaments fighting the European austerity juggernaut, and therefore the role of the movement continuing after the election of government and hopefully the election in Spain of an austerity government. How do you feel about maintaining and growing the movement of the people on the ground around issues to actually back up and support such governments as we fight the European capitalist system?
Okay, we've had a good range of questions there. I'll just pass the microphone among the three guests, and as soon as they're finished we'll get back to more questions. So just because he's on my left and that kind of direction was mentioned, I'll start with Eduardo.
Well, two very different questions. The one about TTIP. We do know that we are affected by this very much. And so we are also, as a Berlin Water Table and as activists, active in the anti-TTIP movement. But we always think we must think local and global. Globally, we fight against TTIP, but not only against TTIP. CETA is more the same, and they say that CETA is, or do you say CETA? How do you call this? Agreement with Canada, and that they say officially since a year that it is already ready to sign. They just must translate it in all the languages and so on. But that's not true. It's because since this debate about TTIP started, now they are also revising what is in CETA. And the other day I met Maud Barlow, you might know her, very famous person, and she always said, well, don't forget, you think Canada isn't so important, so you don't deal so much about CETA. But all the big companies, US companies, have a seat in Canada. So when CETA is signed, you have it already TTIP in your country. So you must strongly fight against CETA too. So that's on you and on us. But on the other side, well, we once have won against the MAI. I don't know if you remember this. We could stop another treaty, and so I'm still convinced that with the more we talk about TTIP, the more chance we have to stop it. And in the 18th of April, we had an International Action Day, and I was in the street for signatures, and I was very astonished that a majority of very normal people, he is talking about these normal people, they already knew about what is TTIP, and they signed it immediately. That's an important thing we made, because at the beginning nobody knew what TTIP is, what is these four letters. Well, the other question. Well, we decided, we just met as a group of individuals, and for a long time big organizations thought that we are just nothing. They weren't interested in us. And while we were fighting for the referendum, all political parties, including the left party, all were against us. So we had no problem, they didn't join our meetings, because they, and most of them thought, well, that's not so important, this small group, let them do and we won't talk so much about them and they'll lose the referendum, because before other referendums supported by big money weren't won. But we talked about water, and as I said before, water is so essential that we had to explain in the street why it shouldn't be privatized. And it was the normal people who supported and helped us. For instance, we had tables in the street, and taxi drivers or bus drivers, they knew our table, and they gave us the lists that people had signed. It blew up like a snowball, and the big organizations didn't realize it, I must say. So, but of course, we, if organization would have come, we would have stopped them. We have a social democratic, but the woman you saw there, she was member of the parliament of the Social Democrats, but she never represents her awful party, but she works as an individual. And so it is very good, because in our small group we don't have these awful debates, one party against the other, and normally in these groups there are delegates, and they are delegates of big organizations, and these aren't the people who later are in the streets for signing. That are we and individuals, and that's how we could manage, and until now they still try more to think we aren't so important and to refuse us, then they try to take us over.
Right, so thank you for all the questions. I will try to answer the more straightforward first. So, LGBT rights, for whomever asked me. So, actually, I was in Dublin in February, on the day I was returning